But there's something about the power of video that connects both on an emotional and a rational way to communicate information in a rational way, but also allow personality and humanity to come through, that people sit up and pay attention a lot more to video than to other forms of content.
Video. It is indeed a super powerful medium if you want to get your message across and your personality across, and it's becoming more and more important in the B2B space, which is why I have with me right now Ben Amos, who's the founder and CEO of Innovate Media, which is an agency for producing video strategies and content. And we're going to be talking about how to design a B2B video strategy for this year, 2023 and beyond. Now, Ben, funny thing, a little bit earlier, we were talking about funny video moments, and you told me about something weird and wild that happened at the Edinburgh Film Festival a bunch of years ago. What was that?
Yeah, so this was many years ago when I was quite a bit younger and a lot less grey hair. I was actually working at the Edinburgh Film Festival and at an industry event there with a lot of media, and one of the journalist was actually speaking to me for about 15 minutes at this event. And then after about 15 minutes, he said, "Oh, hang on a minute. You're not Elijah Wood, are you?" So Elijah Wood from Lord of the Rings. He was at this event, but I'm not him. But the journalist thought I was for some reason. But anyway, funny story.
That's hilarious. So what were the type of questions that the journalist was asking you? What is more?
Just asking me about what I thought of Scotland and had I been to Scotland before, and what I was enjoying about the festival. Very top level questions, but I think he was warming me up for getting to the deep questions that he wanted to get into.
Anyway, who are you dating right now? I remember there was a funny situation like that, and it was BBC News, and they dragged this guy in to talk about the situation in Bangladesh or something, and it turned out that it was just some random taxi driver, and he didn't really know what was going on, and he found himself sitting on a chair in a studio on live TV. Hang on, you're not the expert, are you? No, I'm the taxi driver. That would have been you in Edinburgh. Well, let's talk about video. And you actually have some slides here to talk about the power of video marketing. Where do you want to begin, Ben?
Yeah, look, absolutely. So I think your introduction there said it all. The video has been an important thing in business and in doing business online and offline for years now, but the power of video in the B2B space is something that can no longer be ignored. So if you are in the B2B space, which is why you're here at the B2B Summit and why you're watching or listening to this content, then, I think what we're going to share over the next 30, 40 minutes, however long we go here, I think is going to be really important and impactful for you to kind of steer you in the direction that you need to go here in 2023. So I think it's an important thing. I'm very passionate about it, and looking forward to sharing some more information for our viewers and listeners here today.
Ben's been the guy that I follow when it comes to this stuff for a really long time. I don't know when we first met, but I think that we were both sharing the stage at one of many live events, and I remember kicking back and thinking, this guy knows his stuff. So I'm really looking forward to getting into it.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So if you are listening and you want to see the slides, there was a video version of this, which I'm sure James will share how to get a copy of that. But I want to share with you a little bit about why I believe video is so powerful and so impactful. And I'm going to take you back that, before I started my video production company like 15 years ago, I was actually a high school teacher. And as a high school teacher, there's something that you learn very quickly in controlling a room full of, preteens or teenagers. And you walk into the classroom, and if you do this thing, as a high school teacher, every single time you do this thing, the class sits up, they pay attention, they know that they're in for a good lesson. And as a teacher that you're in for a cracking lesson as well. And, I think many teachers and also many students understand the power of this. And this probably will take you back to high school for yourself here, James. But it was this is what we used to do. And there's a visual on the screen here coming in slowly. and you would wheel in this like VHS player and the TV, and the students would instantly know that they were in for an exciting and interesting and engaging lesson. Now, that's not to say that I wasn't an engaging teacher. Of course I was, but there's something about the power of video that connects both on an emotional and a rational way to communicate information in a rational way, but also allow personality and humanity to come through, that people sit up and pay attention a lot more to video than to other forms of content. And I learned that as a high school teacher. I'm sure you experienced that as a high school student. I'm sure many of us did, right? There was something special when this little thing got wheeled into the classroom. It probably looks a lot different today. Anyway.
Yeah, we're definitely showing our age here. And as Ben said, if you're listening to this on our podcast, perhaps find the link below to watch the video on our YouTube channel, or if you're lucky enough to be part of the B2B Summit, you're clearly watching this now. And that is exactly what I remembered it to be like when I was in high school, and the teacher would wheel in the television and we'd all go, great.
That's it. Cool. You know, you're in for a good lesson. So let's bring that to 2023 though. So not to the 1990s of that TV trolley. So let's talk about some statistics. Why is this important? Well, the fact is that 91% of businesses use video as a marketing tool in 2023. My question to you as you're listening or watching to this is, are you one of those 91%? If not, why not? 92% of video marketers report a positive return on investment with video. And of course, that's why we're doing video, right? So whether you're marketers, whether you're business owners, we want a return on investment. We don't just want to be doing video for the sake of doing video. We want results. We want that ROI with video. The good news is 92% of video marketers report that they get a positive ROI. And more than 9 out of 10 people report wanting to see more video from brands in 2023. So, you know, even though video has been a thing for a long time now, it's still what the audience wants from us. They want that from businesses. And in 2022, people were spending an average of 17 hours watching online video per week. Many people much more than that, but on average 17 hours of online video per week. So what that tells me is that 2023 is the year of video. Again. And I say again,
it was
because
in 2022 and 2021 and will be in 2024.
I first published a blog on my website back in, I think it was around 2012, that said is the year of video. So we're talking like 10, 11 years ago, early on in starting my business. It was the year of video, and it's the year of video.
Hasn't changed. I'll give you another statistic. There's another statistic too. It's something like 60% of B2B deals now begin online. So it's not you meeting face to face, it's on a website or it's on social media. And there was another one, it was something like 70% of the buyer's research phase or the journey is done before you have that first conversation, before they reach out to you. And if you're having conversations with potential clients and they're saying, sorry, what's this about again? Or why am I here? You've completely dropped the ball. 70% of the hard work or more should have been done before you even have a sales conversation. And the fastest, most efficient way to do that is with video.
Yeah, 100%. And that's going to lean into a lot of what we're going to share here today, because the fact is, when businesses are looking at video, they're thinking about video as just a content form. They're not looking at it as a strategy to implement within their business. So we're going to get to that. Absolutely. So thanks for sharing those statistics as well, James. So a little bit about me on the screen here. You can read it for yourself. But basically, I run a company called Innovate Media. We're based on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. I also have another brand called Engage Video Marketing, which is primarily a podcast, YouTube channel. I have some courses around that as well, but I've been in this game for 25 years. And really it's the last 7 to 8 years in the business where we've been focused on video strategy for our clients, not just on content production. So that's kind of what I'm going to share here today. When it comes to B2B video marketing, it's not just about these are the videos that you need to create. It's about how do we think strategically around video? Because the fact is that for most businesses, when they're thinking about we need to do video for our business, they're thinking about content production. They're thinking about the act of making the video. Okay, so how much budget are we going to allocate? Who are we going to get to make the videos? Are we going to make videos in-house? What tools are we going to use? They're thinking about what videos are they going to do. And so I refer to that part as content production, right? So content production is what most people are focused on. But the fact is that content production alone is not enough for effective video marketing, because if you don't have the right strategy designed as in the first place, so the strategy design phase is basically the plan, right? So we know in business that if we don't think strategically, if we don't have a plan in place, then potentially we're going to take the wrong actions, right? So the strategy design is critical, getting the right plan in place. We're going to talk a lot about that today. But that's not enough either. So having the right strategy in place and then creating the right content still isn't going to get you the results, because we also need to consider the third thing that I call strategy management. So strategy management is what you actually do with that content once you've got it. Okay, so it's taking the right actions, executing. So that combination, that kind of crossover between strategy design, planning, content production, making, and strategy management, which is doing, is what I call the video marketing sweet spot, right? So think of it like three legs to a three-legged stool. If any one of these things is missing in your execution of video for your business, then potentially it's just not going to work. It's just going to be noise, right? And there's enough noise out there online that doesn't achieve anything for a business. And I see this time and time again, that businesses are kind of doing one of these three things better than the other. So maybe they have invested a lot of money in making some great videos, but they've never had a strategic design conversation with anyone. So that maybe it was the wrong videos they made in the first place, and they don't even know what to do with them. So they just sit on a hard drive or they upload them to YouTube and it goes nowhere and does nothing, right? The other side of the coin is we see some people making some great plans, so doing a good strategy design. Maybe they've got a great marketing team that have it all laid out, but then they don't execute the videos properly. So the content production is lacking, and then it doesn't get results as well. So you kind of see where I'm going here. There's this critical balance between these three things, and that's what I want to leave people with today. After today's session, if they can go away understanding the interplay between these three things, then I think we're going to be in a good spot.
And it is a common thing, people producing videos and then just not knowing what to do with it. We've got to get some videos done, and then they just put them on their YouTube channel and they do nothing with it. Whereas
Absolutely.
the wrong information delivered at the wrong time can do more harm than good, but the right information delivered at the right time in a sequential way, built on top of the strategy, is powerful, such as this quote.
Absolutely. So on the screen here, you see one of my favorite quotes from a book called The Art of War, written by a guy called Sun Tzu. Obviously was writing about war in ancient China and not modern digital marketing. But the quote here is really relevant to what we're talking about today. And he said that strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So let me just break that down quickly for you. The strategy, so the plan, without tactically implementing, without doing the things, is the slow route to victory. In fact, you'll probably never get there. But tactics, like making videos and doing all the things that everyone's saying that you should do around video, without a strategy, is potentially just noise before defeat. And we know that the digital marketing space, the online space, is a very noisy space. So we don't want to be contributing to that noise. So it's important to go strategy first. So I wanted to share a little bit of brain science with you right now. A caveat, I guess, is that I'm not a neuroscience scientist. So this idea that I'm going to share with you is referred to as the triune brain theory. So the triune is like three areas of the brain. So simple brain science is the idea that the human brain effectively works in three different stages, three different areas of the brain function in different ways. And it's really important when it comes to thinking about marketing. And the internal part of the brain, right at the top of the brain stem is the reptilian brain, or the amygdala. So the amygdala is effectively what's responsible for survival, fight or flight. It's the area of our brain that's the least developed, the least evolved, and it's the part of the brain that is in every creature, really, more or less. And humans have obviously developed our brains much more than just that amygdala, that fight or flight reflex, but we still have that, and that's a critical part to how we make decisions. And as we move out to the next area of the brain, here is what's called the limbic system. And the limbic system is the area of the brain that's responsible for emotional response, so how we feel in any given situation. And then as we go to the largest part of the brain, the human brain anyway, it's called the neocortex, which is responsible for rational thought and processing. And it's really what makes humans human, right? That neocortex that we've developed over the years of evolution. So when we understand that there's 3 levels of the brain here, that reptilian brain in the center, and that's acts like about 60,000 times faster than the neocortex, right? So we respond on a gut level, right? That reptilian brain that's responsible for keeping us safe responds even quicker than we can even imagine, right? We don't even know that that part of our body that part of our brain is responding. If we're in danger, we're running before we even know that we're running, right? And same, if we're not in danger, if it's something that, is positive for us, then we're moving towards it without even realizing we're moving towards it. Then the limbic system functions after that reptilian brain, right? So the limbic system is that emotional system, and that's going to fire well before the neocortex, kind of the rational part of the brain, starts kicking in, right? So what that means is that we feel before we think, right? So when we're making decisions in let's say a purchasing decision, which is relevant for our business audience here, then if the reptilian brain, if that base part of the brain is not satisfied, if the prospect is feeling unsafe in the situation that they're in, then the rest of their brain is not going to function. You're not going to make that sale. The limbic system then needs to be taken care of. So if we don't have the right emotional response, if we can't get people to feel like, I like these people, I trust these people, these are emotional things, then they're not going to get to the rational part of thinking about whether or not they want to purchase. You with me on this? So really what we're doing here, when we understand that idea of simple brain science, is people make decisions based on emotion, and then they rationalize that with logic and reasoning. But emotions happen first. The rational decision to take an action happens later. You with me?
I am, and I'm thinking about something that I was working on over the last couple of days, how it was way too heavily rational before the emotional piece. Whereas if I got people emotional about it first, the rational bit would have justified it. But anyway.
100%. And where this
stuff, but we keep working on it all the time, every day.
And where I simplify this, the limbic system, that reptilian brain, that amygdala as well, that's something that's even before the emotions, right? If, I'm sure we've all been to a website, or we've had a first impression of a salesperson that just gives you the icks, right? It's kind of like, ugh, gross, or nah, that's completely not right. And that's not even an emotional thing. It's just a gut feel. It's like an immediate, I just want to run in the other direction from this brand or this business. Now, hopefully that's no one who's part of the audience here today. That's hopefully not the impression that they give, but we've had that, right? And that's that fight or flight. If that's wrong in the first place, then you're not even going to get to the next stage. So let's take that thought, a step further. And I'm sure many people watching or listening are familiar with this idea of the golden circle principle, popularized by Simon Sinek, the idea that you start with the why, right? So if you haven't seen that great TED talk, go and check it out. Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. It's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. Go and look it up on YouTube. But basically, he talks about this idea that, great leaders, great marketing, great messaging communicate from the inside of this circle out. They start with the why, then they communicate how and communicate what, rather than from the outside in. And again, that's the same thing. I want you to kind of recognize the connection between that 3-part brain system that we talked about before and this idea of the starting with the whys, because we're starting with the emotional. When we communicate from emotional connections first through to rational decisions, then we're going from why to what. And that's the same way that the human brain works. So, it's all tied together here. And when we take that a step further into something that I think everyone who's watching here today will understand is human relationships, right? I kind of liken this idea to dating. You think about when you're dating your potential future partner, you're going to try and move them from an emotional connection through to a rational decision to spend the rest of their life with you, right? So our first date, for example, we're going to show up and we're going to try and, obviously, first of all, they need to feel safe, right? So that's that reptilian brain kicking in. If they show up to the first blind date and they feel in danger, then they're going to run away and you're not going to get any further, right? So we've got that reptilian brain ticked off. Now we go to the limbic system. If they don't make an emotional connection quickly with us, so if we don't, give the right first impression, right, then they're not going to go further with us either. So we get that when it comes to dating. But if we liken that to dating our prospect, bring it down to the B2B sales perspective, I need you to think of that sales process like you're dating your prospect, right? If you're showing up on the first date and you're not making the right emotional connection, then they're not going to, go to that second and third date, which, in the marketing funnel, you might refer to that as the consideration phase of the funnel, right? That's the second and third date. That's when they now, they know they like you. They've got a good emotional response from you, but now they want to start to think more rationally about whether or not you're a good fit for them, and so on and so forth. And then when we move to the purchase end of that funnel, that customer journey, then that's, in the dating analogy, that's where you need them to make a rational decision to buy from you, right? Now, when I say buy in the dating analogy, you can imagine what that purchase is, but, depending on how quickly you move. So, I think it's important to kind of tie in the sales conversation, the sales journey in a B2B and a B2C space, but it's particularly relevant in B2B because we often don't humanize that. We don't think about B2B sales as human.
It's also very trust driven. So, if I'm buying a $9 umbrella or a loaf of bread, the whole awareness and consideration piece is it's not significant. Sure, I might be standing in front of the milk fridge at the supermarket and one brand speaks to me more emotionally than the other. Then there might be a rational consideration because that one's organic or that one's whatever. But it's milk or a loaf of bread or a $9 umbrella. If you're in the B2B space, first things first, you're selling an outcome. It's usually not even if it's a product or service, people are buying an outcome from you. And there's generally no fixed price. So rather than, going to some set of prices to know whether you're good value or not, it comes down to trust. And which means that everything that Ben's talking about is even more important than in the B2B space than the B2C space, because at the end of the day, we want that person to come to a rational decision, but that relies on a heck of a lot of trust.
Yep. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, I think the important takeaway here is, and, for many businesses in the B2B space, is they're trying to get that conversion, that purchase to happen right from that initial contact, or they're trying to move the prospect very quickly to that conversion.
They're acting like forgetting 19-year-old dudes trying to get laid on the first date. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely. And, the question to ask is, how does that feel when you're trying to get the conversion? When we think of the dating analogy, how does that feel and what does that result in? Well, I think we know the answer to that, right?
I set you up for that, didn't I?
Beautifully. It does. It feels like you're slapping your prospects in the face, and people don't like that. They don't respond to that. The amygdala fires and they run away from that kind of potential fear, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're all used to the idea of walking into a bricks and mortar or retail store, and there's that little bit of fear that comes up when someone walks over to you and says, "Can I help you with anything?" And that's, what do we do so quickly? We just go, "No, I'm just browsing. No, I'm just looking." Even though we potentially have come in to buy something, we actually don't want to be sold to. So it's a very interesting kind of human dynamic that is absolutely relevant in the B2B space as well. But the fact is that all of this means nothing. So understanding that there's a journey that people go on, and, brain science, all that great stuff that we shared there, it means nothing if you don't know who you're actually selling to. So if you don't know who it is that you're dating, then you don't know how to show up, or what messaging or stories to tell, or what language to use that's going to tick all the right boxes on that journey as you date them, right? We'll move away from the dating analogy in a second, but I think the important thing is, and it's critical that you really understand who your target audience is. And when it comes to B2B, the B2B selling or B2B marketing, we need to recognize that we're not selling to a business, we're selling to someone within that business who makes that decision, and they are humans. They have human responses to things, right? So identifying who that human is within your business, that's the person you're strategically creating content to market towards, not some entity, right?
Who is the decision maker?
The decision maker, yeah. And sometimes I refer to that in B2B. Sometimes it's more who is the gatekeeper to the decision maker as well, depending on where you are within this journey, right? So sometimes you need to reach the gatekeeper first, and then the decision maker gets brought into the conversation a little later. So it's just understanding the human dynamic of how that sale is potentially going to take place. So if you're looking at the screen here or on YouTube, you'll see that I've got a bit of an outline of what I call a full funnel video strategy framework. And this is what the core thing that I want to share with you here today, because when it comes to B2B video marketing, if you can think about this customer journey of your ideal client is moving from the left of the screen here, from an emotional realization of a need that will eventually lead them to make a purchase, which is a rational decision to buy it, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, then we can align those kind of different emotional and rational stages of that journey to the standard customer funnel, which is obviously there's three main stages of the customer funnel, which is awareness, consideration, purchase, sometimes referred to as different things. But in a full funnel video strategy framework, I also want to bring the fourth stage, which is what I call advocacy, right? Which is what happens after someone makes a purchase from you. And that advocacy stage can't be ignored either, because those advocates of the brand, those, happy clients and customers can become a great referral mechanism, or, they can drive new traffic into the top of the funnel, right? So when we think about this idea of a full funnel, we're not just stopping at the purchase, we're going further into advocacy and so on. Make sense?
Yeah, we call it stranger, suspect, prospect, evangelist. But yeah, they start off as a stranger. Stranger has headaches. They don't really understand how you can help. Then they become a suspect. Suspect is suspicious. All they see are the obstacles, why it's not going to work for them. That's consideration. Then they become a prospect. Prospect, you can talk about aspirations. And then they become a client. You can talk about desires, introduce these opportunities for them to resell, refer you, and become champions and advocates and evangelists for your brand. So I want to see how this plays out, Ben.
Absolutely. And, there's countless different ways you can describe this, but it's the same thing of understanding that, someone is moving. When they make a decision to buy, someone's moving through a journey to eventually buy from you and then become, advocates or evangelists of your brand, right? And as they move through that process, you need to speak to them differently using different language and different content, and different types of marketing needs to be used differently at different stages of this journey. So that's the framework that I want to share with you, because I think if people can leave this session with an understanding of how they can craft different types of video content and use it in different ways across this journey, then everyone's going to be much better off for it. So let's talk about, there's four main stages, right? So we've got awareness, consideration, purchase, and advocacy in this model on the screen here. And the first stage of that is awareness. And this is where they're becoming emotionally aware of a need. So a pain that they're feeling, something that's kind of keeping them up at night, something that's, driving them nuts, or that they're recognizing in their business needs to change. So this is where that emotional connection is really important, because at this stage, they're thinking emotionally. They're not thinking about.
Just stop. I think the pelican flew in and landed on my head. Can you hear all that, or is it not coming through?
I can't.
You can't.
I can't hear it.
Now this stopped. Of course, the freaking stopped. I was going to stop you just in case there was all this noise coming through, and because we're doing this on Zoom and I have to switch to Riverside FM. There's two audio tracks now. Oh no, we can fix it in post. All right, Zoom now has two audio tracks, so you can fix it. Anyway, I'm going to clap my hands 3 times, and you were talking about the brand positioning piece. If you want, you can go back to just dropping it and saying step 1 is the brand positioning, if that feels
I think that'll be smoother, easier for someone to cut.
All right, yeah, cool. So make it disappear, and then I'll clap 3 times, and then you can do it.
Okay, and when we think about these 4 different stages of the customer journey, then we can identify that there are different goals for your content when it comes to video marketing at those different stages. So the first stage is awareness, which is when people are becoming aware of a need that will eventually lead them to make a purchase. And the goal here we call brand positioning. And this is where you want your brand to show up at the right time when that person is feeling that pain or they're having that emotional realization. You want your brand and your products, your people to show up in front of those people and position them as the best fit for that person's need, right? So this is where we are talking emotionally to people. And I think about brand positioning content as getting people to buy in before you ask them to buy, right? And I think that's a critical thing. I'll say that again, is here in brand positioning, it's about getting buy-in, which is an emotional connection, before you ask people to buy, which is a rational decision. So the goal for this sort of content is to, build that likability, build that emotional realization that this company is a great fit for me, potentially. And the kinds of content we want to create here is storytelling. The reason why storytelling works so well in a video marketing strategy for the goal of brand positioning is that stories are intrinsically emotional as a form of communication. If we tell good stories, then people are going to connect with the emotions that that character is feeling, that potentially they're feeling, that they can, they can liken their own journey to what they're seeing in this story. They can also, it's a great way for the brand to tell their story in a way that humanizes that brand. And it's not just about a product now when you're telling stories, it's about why that product exists, why that brand exists. So from a content perspective for brand positioning, the kinds of videos you're going to make at the top of the funnel here could be referred to as brand stories, right? Or clients' stories. And sometimes they could just be more creative campaigns, like, think big budget, you're thinking like Super Bowl commercials, right? Which are designed to make that emotional realization, that emotional connection, like Heineken, like Dove, all of these brands, they spend a lot of time at this brand positioning stage, which is not about selling. It's just about making people feel more connected and to buy into the brand more. It's important to recognize here when you're telling your brand story is that you're not the hero of your own story. So you as the brand aren't the hero when you're telling these stories, but your clients need to be the heroes. So you tell these stories in a way that lifts up the clients, and your brand comes alongside as the guide or the mentor that helps that hero character, which is your clients, achieve an outcome. Right?
We can spend Skywalker and you're Yoda.
100%, right? So, a great resource to dive into here is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If you're familiar with that kind of framework, then this is really what we're tapping into here. I think the important thing is when you're, aiming to create videos for your business that, are for the purpose of top of funnel like this, or for that brand awareness kind of stage of the journey, then we need to be focused on emotion, not on rational selling. So don't try and pitch a sale in these kinds of videos. It's like we talked about before. It's kind of like, trying to get someone to bed in the first date, right? You're going to feel like you're slapping your prospects around the face. So brand positioning, first goal. Let's move on to the second goal. So now we're in what we call middle of the funnel, and this is in that consideration phase of the journey when people they're aware that of a need that they have, and they're seeking answers. They're on a search for different ways that they can solve that problem.
They are suspects and they are suspicious.
Suspicious suspects, exactly. So in this consideration phase, the goal here for video is what we call social engagement. So social engagement is, kind of two things. It's about social, as in like human to human connection, which is really, it's about opening conversations. It's that second and third date, that fourth date, in that dating analogy. But really social media is also a very powerful tool here for social engagement content, because when people are in that consideration phase, their kind of radar is open to receiving information that is relevant to their need. So, as they're scrolling their social media feed, they're opening up LinkedIn, they're just looking through the LinkedIn feed, and then some of your content pops up, which is answering a question that they have been asking in the back of their head, or they've been Google searching. Or, from a, content marketing perspective, they're Google searching something and a result page pops up and they end up on your website reading an article and watching an informative video on your website that answers the question that they have, right? So social engagement is all around helpful content. If you can plan to create content that helps your prospect move towards making a decision to buy. It's not sales content. It's about helpful content. It's about adding value to your target audience. And the kinds of content that works here on the screen, some examples could be how-tos, could be frequently asked questions kinds of content, could be educating people around something that you're an expert in and that they want to know more about. Could be behind the scenes content, take people behind the scenes of how you do what you do, kind of, show them the workings of the sausage factory, so to speak. People are in that suspicious phase or that consideration phase. They kind of want to know how it works. They want to know, they want to educate themselves about it before they even consider buying. Thought leadership content is another great type of content, particularly for professional services or expert-driven businesses. If you can create content that puts your thought leadership or your ideas out into the world, even if they're controversial ideas, if you stand for something, if you can create content that puts that forward, then other people are going to come behind you and support that position. And those people that support that position are likely going to be your ideal customers anyway. So thought leadership is great. Entertainment can be a great form of content here as well, because if people are entertained by you, then they're going to more likely move closer towards making a purchase. Think about bingeable content as well, content that's not just one and done, it can be a series or something that people they watch one piece of content and then they want to keep watching, or they want to subscribe, or they want to, stay part of that content ecosystem for your business. This is all super valuable as social engagement content. And when you're thinking strategically that it's middle of the funnel, this isn't sales content. It's about giving value without the expectation of a purchase happening. Then, that's the best mentality to have for this sort of content. Because if you do a good job with this sort of content, then the right people are going to naturally move to the third phase here, which is the purchase end of the journey, right? Now they're looking to convert, they're looking to buy. And this is obviously one of the most important aspects of a B2B marketing strategy, is actually making sales. So the goal here is conversions, right? The goal for content here is about making the sale. So this is where it is what we call sales-focused content. And remember, this is the rational end of the customer journey now. So people don't want fluffy cinematic drone shots. They don't want, beautiful content from a video strategy. What they want is their questions answered, and they want any objections to the sale overcome. And they want to know exactly what it is that they're buying. So the kinds of content.
Objections, like when's the best time to handle objections? Before the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In video, we can do that.
Absolutely. So this is where, I love tools like B2B Dash, for example, which allow you to, when you get a prospect kind of moving from that consideration, that second phase, into this conversion phase. This is where you can use sales tools and so on, like B2B Dash, to actually manage this relationship better and this conversation. Because as James said, if you can overcome objections through this sort of content before you even get to a sales conversation, then ideally they turn up and they say, I'm ready to buy, right? That's the best scenario you can be in.
Total, absolute real world example of this. Somebody books a meeting with you, right? And they've booked, and it could be something very specific like a sales call, but it could be like a strategy session. You reach out to Ben and you say, hey, Ben, I'm interested in maybe, having a conversation and doing a mini audit with you, right? In our world, someone might book a meeting, and then immediately we would use our technology to trigger a sequence of countdown emails to get them excited for that meeting. And I can tell you, Ben, that the third email every time has the headline, have you seen this? And they open the email and there's maybe one line and then a big screen grab of a YouTube video clip with a big play button in the middle. And that's the third email every time. And then if they click on it, they go to a video, and it's a combination of a bunch of different things. But the main goal of that video is to handle some of those objections before someone gets on the call, so that the seller doesn't have to go through the same boring stuff again and again and again and answer ridiculous questions that are probably not relevant.
Yeah, 100%. Super powerful. And the kinds of videos that you might inject into some kind of a workflow like that, or even that you can just have on different pages of your website, which are, more directly related to selling or to product-based pages. This is where you want to have rational content, videos that maybe demo a product. So You see this in the software space, for example. It's like, okay, so you can see how the product works. You can see what buttons to click and all that sort of stuff. But this works in all sorts of industries as well. So if it's not a product demo, if you're more of a service-based business, then it might be like a walkthrough, or perhaps a service details kind of video, which is kind of detailing what are the 7 steps that we do when we work with you, through our law firm, or what's our process look like? Yeah. What do we expect from you at different stages? So you can detail the service through a video. It's just helping people know what it is that they're buying. Testimonials are great here. So testimonials, different to client stories that you would have seen referred to back at the top of the funnel in the brand awareness or brand positioning goal. Client stories take a more storytelling approach, whereas testimonials are more rational. This is where, it's about social proof. It's like, yes, these people solved my problem, and yes, this is the data that we've got to back it up and that kind of thing. So testimonials are great here. What you referred to before, James, was it's sometimes referred to as assignment selling, which is the idea of assigning content to your prospects to watch or engage with before you get to the sales process. So assignment selling is very powerful, because particularly if you're in a high touch sales kind of a business, which many B2B businesses are, then if you think about it, the common questions that you're getting every single sales conversation, the chances are it's probably 80% of the time it's the same questions you're getting over and over again. So there's a book called They Ask You Answer, written by Marcus Sheridan, and he talks about the 80% video for this exact reason. So this is a video that you send out as an assignment to your prospect before you meet with them, and it answers the 80% of the questions that they get every single time anyway. And how much time does that save in a B2B sales process? I mean, countless hours. It means
right? You can add more value on that call rather than just covering
the same stuff.
Hey, this last one, the one-on-one sales video, I'm not sure what you had in mind for that, but what I will say is that what we're recording now can be the type of thing that you give to someone after they book a meeting with you. So they book a meeting with you, there could be a success page, and it says, in the lead up to the meeting, do your due diligence on us. Here's an interview that I did with James Tuckerman, or here's an interview that I did with Ben Amos. Have a look at that. And then Ben runs through his methodology, his process, his method, the big picture stuff, and half the selling is done. Is that what you mean by the one-on-one sales video? Or is it something more direct than that?
This kind of thing that you're referring to there is more of that assignment selling, more of that kind of video that you would assign someone, which does some of the selling for you before. One-to-one sales video, I'm so passionate about. And I think it can be one of the quickest wins that people can integrate, particularly in a B2B space. And this is where you're actually creating a video. And the reason why it's one-to-one is because you're creating this video for the person receiving it. So this is the kind of video that you might send. For example, you get a lead that comes through your lead generation mechanism, you capture a bit of information, and then you would create a video using your webcam or using your smartphone, and you would directly address that lead. You'd say, hey, James, thanks for your inquiry through our website just now. I see that you're interested in this kind of thing. I'm looking forward to meeting with you at the time you booked next week. Just before we get to that meeting, though, I just want to talk about this, and this, a couple of little points. So I'm directly addressing James. I'm talking about why he contacted me. And if I send that through, it humanizes that sales process. It kind of makes people feel that you're very responsive, and it can really make or break that sales conversation, particularly if they've sent a couple of different inquiries through a few different websites and they're having a few different calls. If you're the one that reaches out very quickly with a one-to-one video response like that, you're going to stand head and shoulders above anyone else.
And if things get really busy in their world and they're tempted to postpone or reschedule or cancel, and some people are just rude and they just ghost you, they book a meeting and they just ghost you. If they watch that little video, and we do this via Loom, Ben, so we use the little Loom app, Loom. We shoot ourselves walking down the street, and it gives you a little link which you can then SMS the person. So we send this little Loom video by SMS. They're less likely when the time comes around and it's really busy and they're not in the mood, and the meeting comes up and they go, well, Ben seems like such a nice guy, I don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
Whereas a faceless brand is a faceless brand, and, I'm not in the mood, so whatevs, I'll postpone or I'll reschedule and life goes on.
100%. Loom's great. We use a tool called Vidyard, Vidyard, same sort of thing. Whatever these tools are, you need to choose a tool that allows you to do it quickly and easily. Vidyard has a plugin that basically there's a button right next to your send button, like in your Gmail or Outlook, where you can just pop up your webcam, record a quick video. It embeds it right in there, animated GIF kind of thumbnail, so that it's all moving. Looks really
well, you would.
engaging.
You'd have the super polished one with the rotating logo and everything, because you're a video.
Yeah, you can do all of that with Vidyard, right? So a really powerful tool. One of the great ways I want to share how we use these one-to-one sales videos, particularly for my business in my video strategy agency, where our sales process is based on proposals. So put together a proposal or a quote. Many B2B businesses are based in that sort of a sales process. When we send every single proposal or quote that I send out of this business, I'm recording a one-to-one proposal walkthrough video. So what that is basically I'm using a tool. We use Vidyard. You can do this with Loom, for example, and you're basically sharing your screen, but I'm also in a little bubble, like in a little circle on the screen as well. And I'm just saying, hey, James, great to chat to you during our strategy discovery session. And, as I discussed, I'm going to put together this proposal for you. You'll find the proposal attached to this email, but I'm just going to, over the next couple of minutes, walk you through the proposal in this video to hopefully answer any questions you have before you have them and make it really clear for you how we put this proposal together. And then I'll basically just scroll down the PDF proposal and I'll say, this is what's here. This is why we've done this, little bit of explanation. The real superpower of these videos is every single time I send them, I get a response back that says, hey, Ben, thanks for the proposal. The video is great, by the way. And the benefit of that is that particularly if there's more than one stakeholder making the decision to buy, then that video can be sent to the other stakeholders. That can be sent up the line up the decision-making tree. And that video does the further selling for you.
And you can see whether they've watched it or not too.
Absolutely. Particularly using the right tools, you can see the stats, you can see how many times and what percentage of the video was watched and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And, a little super trick here as well is, if you send, I'm sure many people have sent proposals and then just been ghosted, right? They're like, I don't even know if they even opened the damn thing.
And they've watched it 6 times, they've ghosted you and you're like, what? What's going on?
Yeah, well, you can, using these tools, you can see if they've even watched the video. And, if they have watched the video the next day, you can just shoot a quick reply and just say, just following up, and maybe not say that you've been spying on them. I think that's exactly the superpower is that where you just time that follow up and then they write back to you and they say, oh, funny, you sent the email. We just were looking at your proposal just now. And you're like, oh, were you? I knew that.
Yeah. No, I shoot Loom videos when I see people doing things on our platform.
Yeah.
And then basically I can say, I'm watching you. I see what you're doing on my platform. And they come back and they laugh. So what do we got here? 68% of customers don't want to talk to a salesperson. True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And this was data back from 2017, but it's even more true today is that, and you started right at the outset of this session here talking about the fact that people don't want to be sold to. What they wanted, they do their research. They're spending time figuring out, learning and researching things for themselves before they even get to that sales conversation. So this is the power of using video strategically in this process to just speed up sales, more or less. I want to move now just quickly as we get towards the end of the framework here to the advocacy stage. So the advocates are the people who have obviously they've bought from you and they can become your raving fans. They can become the people that are going to refer new clients to you or buy from you again and so on and so forth. And the goal here in your video strategy is what we call delight. So delight is all around, recognizing that sales is based on relationships. And if we can create content that's designed to improve and build and build a deeper relationship with our clients, then they're more likely to refer others and to buy from us again and complete that cycle. So video can be really powerful at this. We understand that it's a very human method of communication. And this is where these types of videos can be really powerful. So for the goal of delight, we might be thinking about personalized video. Again, one-to-one messaging, similar to what we talked about before, but here it's maybe after the purchase. So maybe someone's, signed the contract, they've paid the initial deposit or whatever. And then the CEO shoots through a video and says, hey, just wanted to personally welcome you to our agency. We've met before because I did the selling. This is the kind of video I might do, but I wanted to just, introduce you to a couple of people in the team here. And I might, spin the camera around and say, here's Matess. She's our project manager. You're going to hear from her very soon. Over the back there, Wave, is our production manager and that kind of thing. So we can do that sort of video as well, and it doesn't need to be highly produced. It can be selfie style. In fact, sometimes that might actually be better depending on your brand. So that kind of thing is going to make people overcome buyer's remorse. Which is very real. They're going to be like, oh, I'm actually really glad I signed on with this company because, look at how they care about us and that sort of thing. And they're real people, which is really nice. The other types of, we just skipped ahead. The other types of videos might be onboarding videos. So if you're I'm sure, in the software space, in the SaaS space, it's important to get people up to speed very quickly with your product so that they don't, not take action and they don't buy in.
Even if you're not in the software space, I think it's really useful to make a list. And I'm going to use a curse word now, but this is the way that we talk about it behind the scenes, is make a short list of all the way that your clients fuck up. Now, that is because, 98% of people come through your world, or 80% of people, and it's completely seamless. And then there's that 20% where one person does this and the other person does that. And then it creates a awkward or inconsistent experience. If you can come up with the 5 ways that relationships, if you can identify the 5 ways that relationships turn sour, you can put them into one video that says, here are 5 ways that we use, 5 things that we do to make sure that, here's 5 things we want you to do to make sure that you get the best outcome from our relationship together. And then just make sure that they don't make any of those 5 mistakes.
Yeah, great example. And another example of this, not in the software space, and it can apply to so many different B2B businesses is, for example, we produce videos for a property manager, and when they get new tenants or new property owners, sign on, there's a whole contract, right? There's a whole legal tenancy agreement form, right? And they spend like an hour every time sitting down with their new landlords to go through all this stuff and say, like, what happens when, the tenant goes into arrears and who's responsible for the water bill and all this kind of standard stuff, which is pretty boring and pretty dry. But they've recorded that into a short video. They use Vimeo as a platform to deliver that video. And it means that the message is delivered consistently every time to every new tenant. And they can send a link to the tenant and know when they've watched it. So they kind of legally, they know that they've been briefed, right? And they send a different video, but they do the same sort of thing for new tenants as well. So when a new tenant comes into one of their properties, the tenant knows everything about their contract. They know what they can and can't do in the property. And instead of doing it over the phone every single time or in person every single time, they've recorded the video once and they can use it on time and time again. So that's another example of that onboarding video. You can also do thank yous or milestones or that kind of thing. So maybe it's 6 months, maybe you're a retainer-based service, and maybe you can do a video that comes out at that point where sometimes you get, drop off, bit of churn, right? So maybe that's where you plan to do a video that kind of reaches out and thanks people and celebrates the fact that they've been with you for 6 months or that they've achieved this great milestone. Maybe you can plan to share some statistics about, all the wins that they've had over the 6 months that reminds them of why it's important to continue working with you. So you can do that sort of video as well. It's all about community building. It's all about relationships, all about using video as a way to remind people, particularly in businesses where we tend to be just kind of behind computers or, the last thing that you want to be doing in any kind of B2B industry is just sending invoices and people are receiving these invoices and they're like, I don't even know what this company does for me. Why are we paying this invoice? I don't even remember who it is who's behind this company. That's not going to be a good relationship, right? So you can use video to improve all of that stuff.
You said something before. You said buyer's remorse. People have buyer's remorse. People suffer post-purchase dissonance. I think that if you don't have some sort of onboarding experience that's designed specifically to achieve one goal, and this one goal is to get your customers or clients to a place that we call first win.
Yep.
If you don't have an onboarding process to get your customers and clients to this place called first win, you're a fool. And that is because everyone's experiencing that buyer's remorse, that's post-purchase dissonance. And either you have got to manually hustle to get that person to first win, or you have a system to get that person to first win. And when they do hit first win, you use the word, just got it behind on my screen, use the word advocate here. When they hit first win, that is when they become the advocate. That is when they become the referral partner. That becomes when the evangelist, the affiliate.
Yeah.
And the best way to get there is to have some sort of onboarding process. And video is more likely than not going to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And it's so critical, particularly in B2B, that the conversation, that the strategy doesn't end with purchase. You know, if we're not considering this advocacy side, then, you know, the benefit of doing this right, this post-purchase kind of part of the strategy is that, you know, we can increase the value of our sales, we can increase the retention of our customers, we can increase the referral value, and, you know, it's just an all-round win that we don't just kind of get them to the sale and then we forget about them, right? So on the screen here, full funnel video strategy framework. Hopefully, you know, we've gone through that fairly quickly, but the key thing that I want you to take away from this is that different types of video works in different ways at different stages of that customer journey. And for a B2B business looking to really improve their video marketing and their video strategy across their business, chances are you can use video in all of these different stages. But what I don't want you to do from this is to get overwhelmed and to think to yourself, that's great, Ben, James, awesome. We're not doing any of this right now. Now we've got to do all of this. I'm not going to take any action because it's too much for me to take action on. What I want you to do is to actually spend some time analyzing where you are in your business right now and which stage of this customer journey is going to have the most impact for you to make a difference in right now. Okay, the rest of it can follow. But for example, if you're at a stage of business where it's really just about making sales, then integrate some of this that we've talked about into your sales conversations, and you will see a difference. Or if you're a brand, you know, a newer brand that it's more around awareness and getting your brand positioning out there, or if you're a bigger brand that the sales are happening, but you just need to reach new markets and, you know, reach new audiences in different ways, then focus on that top of funnel brand positioning and storytelling. So there's, you know, or anywhere in between. So think about where you need to take action and be strategic about taking action in the right places at the right time.
Ben, we didn't discuss this earlier, but do you have some sort of sit down where people can like book a time with you and just sort of map something out together? Or is that something that you do for people?
We do. For Australian-based businesses, we offer what we call a video strategy discovery session, which is a complimentary session to kind of walk through this process, but apply it to their business to help them understand, you know, what video strategy looks like for their business. So a few ways that we can connect on that. So, you know, what I wanted to leave you with is just whatever it is, go and take some damn action. Just go and do something, right? Take action. Don't just learn from this and then be like, okay, great, I'm better informed, but then don't do anything about it. So a few ways on Twitter or Instagram. You can go to @engage_Ben, visit our website, Innovate Media. You'll see a button there to request a video strategy discovery session, which is free, just some time that we can spend together if you feel like that's a good fit for you. Or if you just want to listen to some more, learn some more stuff about video marketing. It's over 237 episodes of the Engage Video Marketing Podcast there for you to listen to on any podcast player.
There we go. Because now even video you can listen to podcasts and watch podcasts. You can do all this stuff. Anyway, it's all related. It's all connected. Thank you so much, Ben. That was so awesome. What I really loved about that is how closely it dovetails with a lot of the things that we share with our clients. I talked about stranger to suspect, prospect, evangelist, and they've got headaches. They see headaches, obstacles, aspirations, then desires, and it ties in so closely. I do highly recommend that you go to Ben's website and do book a time with him. And also, Ben, I don't know about you, but what would you say would be the easiest way to start dabbling with video marketing? I mean, like I've been messing around on TikTok recently. We've talked about loans. What would be the easiest way?
Yeah, look, I think the easiest way for businesses to take action and to start getting a win, we talked about getting to the first win, right?
Mhm.
And that's absolutely the way I approach it as well, is to start integrating video into your sales conversations. So we talked about that process for one-to-one personalized video messaging, whether you start doing videos that go with your quotes or your proposals, just start doing that. I absolutely feel that you will see a difference in your conversion rate by integrating video into that process. And for B2B businesses, I think that's the best place to start. I'd have different advice for B2C, but I think to get to the first win, use a tool like Vidyard, use a tool like Loom, and get comfortable and confident just recording a quick, personalized video walkthrough that goes off with your sales proposal or your quote or whatever it is.
Be prepared to reveal a little bit of your authentic self. Thank you so much, Ben. This has been awesome. Thank you for spending this time with me today.
Thanks, James.